This is day 3's independent practice. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. This is day 3, independent practice. All right. So the first thing that we need to know is that notice that these are not equations. The equal sign has been replaced with an inequality. So I'm going to write some inequalities out to the side. These are also in the notes that I just had you copy into your interactive notebook, okay? So don't worry about copying these side notes down because I've already put it in that picture for you that we copied in our interactive notebook. So the first inequality is the less than sign, and the less than sign looks like this. It almost looks like an L. When you do your hand like this sign it looks like an L. If you turn it this way, this is an L. This is your less than sign. The other sign that goes this way is this is a backwards L. That's the greater than sign. So this what looks like an L is my less than. So I'm going to put less than here. Then when I have a less than sign and an equal sign under it, this is less than or equal to sign. This inequality is my less than or equal to. So we got less than or equal to. And the backwards L is your greater than sign. Okay. And the backwards L with one of the equal signs there is called greater than or equal to. So let me box it so you don't get confused about which one's which. Okay. This is greater than or equal to. Okay. All right. So those are the inequalities that we have replaced with equal signs. So we're going to use the same rules. And remember, we wrote these rules down in our interactive notebook. And I'm going to pull out our interactive notebook real quick. We wrote down our steps in our interactive notebook, and they look like this. Okay, where you do distributive property first, combine like terms on each side, move the variable to the same side, and then isolate the variable by using inverse operations. The opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is addition. The opposite of multiplication is division. And the opposite of division is multiplication. When you isolate the variable, you always do addition and subtraction first. Last is going to be multiplication or division. Okay. The only thing that is different about solving an inequality, we're going to put an asterisk up here. I'm going to put an asterisk up here because I wrote this in your notes that we paste in our interactive notebook. The only thing that you have to be aware of is that when you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, the inequality is going to flip. That's the only thing that's different. You're going to follow the same rules as the equations, but when you multiply or divide by a negative number, your less than sign is going to be greater than. Your less than or equal to sign is going to be greater than or equal to. If it's greater than or equal to, it's going to flip to less than. The inequality or the mouth is going to flip if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative. So I'm put that up here to remind us. When you multiply, because sometimes we have to see it. When we multiply or divide by a negative, okay, the inequality is going to flip. The inequality flips. So less than will be greater than will be less than equal to will be greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to will flip to less than or equal to. Okay, and you'll learn that more as we go. Don't try to process everything at the same time. All right, I'll pause for the calls here just to let you get your breath. Okay, so in this first problem here, I'm going to rewrite this inequality. And I'm going to treat it just like it's an equal sign. I'm going to follow the same steps. I need to get V by itself. So I got to get rid of this positive 3. I know it's a positive 3 because there's no sign or operation in front of it. So in order to get rid of a positive 3, I subtract 3 on both sides, just like it's an equation. I'm solving it the same way. When I subtract 3 here, this is gone, and I'm left with V. I bring down my inequality. On this side, a -9 plus a -3 is going to give me a negative, or I can say -9 minus 3, that's a -12. So my answer is V, and this is less than or equal to, because it looks like this, less than or equal to -12. So you see this little graph up here? I'm going to graph this inequality. I find this number on the number line and put a circle on the number line above that number. So I find -12 and I put my circle above -12. I'm going to shade in all the values that I can possibly put in for V. So since this is equal to, I'm going to shade in -12 because the answer can also be -12. It's saying that all values are less than or equal to -12. So I'm going to shade in all the values that are less than -12 as well. So I'm going to shade to the left because all these numbers to the left are smaller than -12. Any questions about that? All right, guys, let me know if you have a question, okay? Let me know. Okay, so we have 8 less than or equal to n minus 6. And please, even though I'm recording this, no one can hear your voice. My voice is the only voice that can be heard. So please make sure that you ask your questions, okay? All right. So in this problem, when we're finding or solving for n, we are going to get n by itself by adding 6 on both sides. This is a minus. The opposite of subtracting or minus is a plus. So we add 6 to both sides. When we add 6 to this side, we get 14. Put my line here. We're going to bring down the greater than or equal to sign. This is gone. -6 plus 6 is 0. So we get n. So now our n values are going to be smaller than 14 or equal to 14. Okay, because it says 14 greater than or equal to n. The mouth is open to 14, so of course it's larger than our answers. So another way to write this is to put n over here and have the mouth still open to the 14, and don't forget the equal. So this is another way to write it. Some people like to see the variable on this side, okay? Some people like to see that variable on that side. So now our values are going to be equal to 14. So I find 14 on the number line. I put a circle there. I'm going to shade in my circle because it's equal to 14. And I'm going to shade all values that are smaller than 14. So that means I'm shading to the left. Any questions about that? Okay, we're going to keep moving. Number 11 here, the third problem. I'm going to rewrite. We got K. This is divided by 4. You need me to pause real quick? Okay. Let me know when you are ready. You ready, babe? Okay. All right, so this is K divided by 4. This is, again, a less than sign. This is -4. In order to get K by itself, we got to get rid of this 4. This is division. The opposite of division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply 4 on both sides. When we multiply a positive 4 on both sides, the 4's here on this side is going to cancel out, and you're left with just 1k or k. We're going to bring down this inequality, the less than sign. On this side, negative 4 times a positive 4 is a negative 16. We still didn't flip the inequality because we multiplied both sides by a positive number and not a negative number. We only flip this when we multiply or divide both sides by a negative. Okay? So this is going to be our answer here. So to graph this, we find negative 16 on the number line and put a circle above it. We don't shade in this circle this time because we don't see an equal sign here. So no shading. K cannot be equal to 16, but it can be less than 16. So we're going to shade to the left. These are all the values that are less than 16. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. So here we have 3. We got again a less than. I kept using less than. I do apologize. I'm going to use a variety next time. So we got 3 is less than, and we got negative 5n plus 2n. And again, remember we're using those steps that we wrote in our notebook. We don't have distributive property, but we can combine like terms. Nothing to combine over here, but over here we can combine these terms together. Negative 5n plus 2n gives me a negative 3n. So on this side I get 3, bring down my less than sign, and here when I combine this gives me a negative 3n. Any questions about this? Okay. Now in order to get n by itself, this negative 3 is attached to n by multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by this negative 3. So here's the first time where we're actually dividing both sides by a negative number. Remember the asterisk that we wrote at the top? When you multiply or divide by a negative number, the inequality is going to flip. So that means this inequality is going to have to flip. Instead of it being less than, we're going to put the greater than here. Okay? So now on this side, 3 divided by negative 3 gives me now a negative 1. And on this side, negative 3 divided by negative 3 is going to give me a positive 1n, or just n. Again, remember the negative 1 is greater. The mouth is open to the negative 1. The negative 1 is greater than all of your values. So another way to write this is that n is smaller than, then you can conclude that n is smaller than negative 1. Still, you see, the mouth is still open to the negative 1. The mouth is still open to the negative 1. So negative 1 is greater here because the mouth is open to negative 1. And negative 1 is greater here because the mouth is still open to negative 1. Questions about this? So now we're going to graph it. We're going to find negative 1 on the number line and put a circle here. Since there's no equal to, you're not going to shade in negative 1 because your answer can't be negative 1 because there's no equal to. So don't shade in negative 1. All of your values for n have to be smaller than negative 1, so you're going to shade to the left. These numbers here are smaller than negative 1. Okay? Any questions about that? All right, I'm going to pause real quick. Number 6, you have negative 3 minus 6, parentheses 4x plus 6. This is a longer problem. So it's very important, look, that you follow the steps for the longer problems, okay? So you can keep yourself organized. So we're doing distributive property first. There is a minus sign in front of this 6. So this makes this a negative 6. So you're going to multiply negative 6 times both numbers in the parentheses. That's distributive property. You're going to bring down this negative 3. Negative 6 times a positive 4x is a negative 24x. Negative 6 times a positive 6 is a negative 36. This is distributive property here. Bring everything else down. Are there any questions? The next step is to combine like terms. So we're going to combine only the terms that are alike. On this side, these two numbers are alike because neither one of them have variables attached. We have negative 3 minus 36. That gives us a negative 39. I'm going to mark these out so I know I've combined those. And I'm going to bring everything else down. Okay. Your last step is going to be to isolate the variable. You get rid of all numbers that you can add or subtract to remove. I'm going to get rid of the negative 39 by adding 39 to both sides. When I add 39 to both sides here, this gives me 0, and I'm left with this negative 24x. I'm going to bring down the inequality. Okay. And on this side, when I add 39 to this side, this is going to give me a negative 72. Lastly, to get rid of this negative 24 that's attached to x by multiplication, the inverse or opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 24. Because I divided both sides by a negative number, this inequality is going to flip. So instead of it being greater than, it's going to be less than. A negative divided by a negative is going to give me a positive here. This is going to be a positive 1x or just x. A negative divided by a negative here is going to be a positive here. And this is going to give me 3. So my answer is x is less than 3. So I put my circle above 3. I don't shade in the circle because there's no equal to. 3 cannot be an answer for x because there's no equal to. So don't shade in 3. I'm going to shade in all values that are less than. So less than is to the left. Greater than is to the right. Less than is to the left. And next time I'll give us more variety. Questions about that?